Here. Quite a few of you are here. It's great to see everybody. All right, wonderful, wonderful to see you all. This is terrific. Here we are with some incredible technology, which allows us to meet in this way. So I certainly miss seeing you all in person, but I can virtually invite you into my piano studio at this time. So that's something different, something interesting. Um, Now, of course, normally when I meet with you in person, I usually have some kind of topic that I've put together. Today, the topic is simply at the piano. And I thought what I would do was play for you some of the music that I've been practicing lately, that I've been interested in. Um, I found myself at the beginning of this pandemic situation playing quite a bit of the music of Bach in particular. Um, I found it very peaceful, I think, and comforting at the same time. And in addition to just that sort of emotional reaction to the music, I decided to start a new project. There's a piece of music that I love so much. It's called the Goldberg Variations by Bach, and I've loved it and listened to it since I was a teenager and thought, well, if I'm ever going to learn this, I really better start now because it's long and very difficult. So I'm giving myself, about 10 to 20 years for the project, but I did get started over this break. So today, one of the things that I'll play for you is the first few variations, and I will tell you more about that. So I'm going to begin with a piece called "While Sheep May Safely Graze." It's by Bach. And this was a piece that is not written originally for the piano. This was from a cantata, a vocal piece, voice and orchestra and chorus. Bach wrote many, many, many of these cantatas. It was his job, in fact, when he, had his church job every Sunday, and he had to write a new cantata every week for his church service. So we have many cycles of these cantatas. It's incredible to think of how many of these he wrote week after week. In any case, some of the pieces from these cantatas were very popular, and audiences loved them, and pianists worked them into arrangements for solo piano. So that's what I'm going to start with. While Sheep May Safely Graze, an arrangement for solo piano of a piece from a cantata called The Birthday Cantata. Thank you very much. Well, it just started raining here in Newton. I don't know about you. I can hear the rain falling. So it's a perfect opportunity to stay inside and listen to some music because we wouldn't be going out and enjoying the sunshine anyhow. The next selection by Bach is, as I alluded to earlier, some selections from the Goldberg variations. This set of pieces, it's now very famously called the Goldberg Variations. When it was first published, it was just called Aria with Variations for Harpsichord with 2 manuals. So a harpsichord was the predecessor to the piano. It had strings that were plucked with quills instead of strings that were struck with hammers. And 2 manuals means 2 keyboards. So many of you have probably seen certainly church organs with multiple keyboards. A harpsichord, same idea. You've got 2 different keyboards layered up there. I've heard from harpsichordists that this music is much easier to play on a harpsichord with 2 keyboards because you can imagine that if the hands are going in opposite directions, if they have 2 keyboards, they won't collide. But when you're just playing it on a piano, the hands really get in each other's way quite a bit, which is one of the reasons this can be very difficult in some places to play. This was written in 1741. Bach died in 1750, so this was one of his later works. It's one of the most important set of variations written, a supreme example of what a composer can do with the variation form. It has a great story about why it was written. There was a count named Count Kaiserling, and he had his own personal court harpsichordist whose name was, his last name was Goldberg. And Count Kaiserling had a very hard time falling asleep at night. He was a nervous sleeper, suffered from insomnia, so he employed the harpsichordist Goldberg to play harpsichord in the room right outside of his bedroom and play all night long to help him fall asleep. And the Count also took music lessons with Bach, and so there was the connection. So he commissioned Bach to write this piece for his harpsichordist, Mr. Goldberg, to play to help him fall asleep. Now, hopefully my playing doesn't make you fall asleep. It's actually a very lively and exciting piece, full of joy, full of life. But it's got a great story. Who knows how true it is, but that's the story in any case. So it begins with an aria, and the aria, of course, that means song, and it's a beautiful melody, but something to really pay attention to here is the bass line. The whole melody is built upon this bass line that runs through the piece, and each subsequent variation also has that same bass line structuring it. If you imagine a building, these are like the beams before the walls go up. It's the raw architecture of the building. So that's what Bach does here. He connects every variation using this bass line, giving the work a remarkable unity and cohesion. So we'll begin with the aria, and I'll play the first 3 variations. Thank you. Well, only 27 more to go, or so, something like that. I guess some things that happen when you're giving concerts in your basement on your computer is that your dog might come over and sit on your foot when you need to pedal. You don't expect that to happen. So, all kinds of interesting things. Next on the program are several pieces you might have heard me play in person because they've been part of our lectures before. There are two pieces with titles about birds. The first is by Rameau, called Le Rappelle, Les Oiseaux, the Conference of the Birds. Very chattery piece. You can hear the composer making bird songs in both hands, having dialogue with each other. Then the second piece is by Robert Schumann, The Prophet Bird. Very impressionistic, poetic piece with a beautiful hymn-like section in the middle. So those are the two next pieces. The Conference of the Birds and The Prophet Bird. Thank you. Yep. Conference of the Birds by Rameau and The Prophet Bird by Robert Schumann. Those two pieces, the nature-inspired themes were thought of and given by the composer. The composers named those pieces in each case. However, sometimes in the Romantic era, the obsession with nature led publishers to give names to music that the composers hadn't really thought of themselves. And one of the reasons, of course, is that, well, something with the name the Moonlight Sonata is going to sell more copies than Sonata Opus 27, number 1 in C sharp minor. Right? It's a little catchier. So the publishers knew that, and they would think of some romantic titles to give to the pieces. So I'm going to play two pieces in that theme, the theme of pieces with romantic titles not named by the composer. The first, as I just mentioned, is the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. This was written at a very difficult time in Beethoven's life when he was grappling with his increased hearing problems, realizing that his career as a virtuoso pianist was probably going to come to an end. And at the same time as this, he was really exploring new territory in his composition and exploring new instruments that were being invented and created, because of course during this time the piano itself was undergoing major development, the biggest of which was the pedal, the sustaining pedal, the device that makes the sound stay in the strings because you've lifted the dampers off of the strings. So Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata utilizes the pedal. According to his instructions, you're actually supposed to leave the pedal off for the entire time you play. Nobody does this these days because the modern piano is so resonant, probably much more than what Beethoven had. Perhaps on his piano, you could have left the pedal down the whole time, blended the harmonies gently. But on the modern piano, pianists usually change the pedal, lift it up and down as the harmonies change. So that's the next piece on the program. And following the Moonlight Sonata, a perfect piece for today, the Prelude by Chopin, given the nickname the Raindrop Prelude. Thank you. So the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, followed by the Raindrop Prelude of Chopin, and perfect timing with the rain outside today. And let's unmute everybody and see if, actually, maybe raise your hand if you have a question or comment about the music. And oh, there's my son Manu raising his hand. I wonder what he'd like to say about that. Let's unmute everybody. Okay. Hi, everybody. Any questions or comments so far about any of the music? Marion. Hi, Marion.
Hi, no question. I just wanted to say how relaxing that was. You just wanted to,
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It has that effect on me when I'm playing it also. It's very relaxing music to play, actually. It's very, yeah, wonderful. Well, I'm glad that it gives you some relaxation. That's great. Good. Okay, we'll go on. And I must have known today would be a rainy day because the next piece I chose to play was Debussy's Reflections in the Water. This is one of the real impressionist masterpieces for the piano. Debussy has been called a quiet revolutionary of the piano because he really did change the way music could be written at the beginning of the 20th century. Created new sounds and new colors, and specific to the piano, really sort of invented a new way of writing music for the piano, combining different sounds and chords that composers hadn't thought was okay before, and he created new sounds. Reflections in the Water, Debussy. Thank you very much. Thank you. The last piece I have picked out today is a short piece that many of you might know by an American composer named Edward MocDowel. He was a Romantic composer. He was American from New England, had a very important presence here in Boston and in New Hampshire as well. He studied in Europe, studied composition and piano, and performed widely. Moved back to the United States, where he became a prominent musician. And many of his compositions explored American themes, and nature in particular was one of them. And this is a lovely gem of a piece called To a Wild Rose. I don't know about you, but I find with this piece that there's something very distinctly American about it. And I'll leave you with that thought as I play it. See if you hear the same sort of thing that I do. To a Wild Rose. I'm going to unmute everybody.
Yay!
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, so wonderful to see you all, even on the the tiny boxes on the computer screen. It's great to see you. I hope you're all healthy and that your loved ones are healthy, that you're all doing very, very well. Thank you for attending this virtual concert today. I hope you enjoyed the music. Chris, thank you also for, of course, facilitating this and helping for it to run smoothly. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to say, Chris?
Thank you, Sivan. That was wonderful. And I'm impressed so many people are able to get onto Zoom. I'm very impressed by that.
That's great. Good. Okay. Well, I'd love to hear anything, any comments or questions. And if there are none, yes. So we've got one there, Nancy, but Nancy is muted. Let me unmute Nancy. And this is great. I can see most of your names too in person. You don't get to.
There, I got it.
Nancy,
There, I got it. Do it again soon. Do this again soon.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be happy to. Chris, we'll talk about making that happen. Absolutely. That's great. It's a wonderful way for me to connect with you again.
Very exciting for us to anticipate. And it's been just everything we hoped it would be. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Okay.
And not only you, but it's nice for us to see some familiar faces again.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's a way to bring everybody together virtually. That's right. Good. Okay. Wonderful. Well, again, wonderful to see you. Thank you for figuring out how to use Zoom and adapting to new technology so well and so quickly. And Chris and I will talk about doing this again at some point in the near future.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Be well, everybody. Great to see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.